Hey guys, welcome to the Paint with Lovejoy website. This is the place for first time and beginners to get comfortable with the painting process. If you have never painted, I am definitely the teacher for you. I will give you permission to play, to create with your hands, and I do consider this adult kindergarten, where you get to make memories with yourself or with loved ones. And you will notice that creative time is something that you will reference for the rest of your life. I do encourage you to send me photos of your paintings. And when you're done with my YouTube videos, please check out my Paint Your Pet course for even more in-depth and kind of my signature class. It's a lot of fun. Before we get started, I want to say thank you for being you. And I also want to give you permission to play today. I'm going to encourage that you take a lot of progress photos, and I do recommend that you turn off your distractions. Put your phone on mute. Please know that mistakes will happen. We call them happy accidents. And I'm going to encourage you to breathe throughout the painting process. Here are your recommended supplies and the colors for this particular video. This video also has a traceable, a line drawing at the beginning, and you can either purchase the traceable and transfer, or you can pause the video and draw it freehand, whichever you feel comfortable doing. Again, progress photos are important. And I'm going to encourage that you pause and play the video as much as you need and rewatch anything that you want. Now let's go ahead and get started painting. Okay, so take your first progress photo and jump right into the background. And this is going to be shades of green. I am using a large or medium flat brush and that direct green paint, and I'm actually applying it pretty thick. I will actually do this background twice because I'm using student grade paint. And after the background dries, I realized I did not want it to look like that. So I did a second layer. So with that being said, I still recommend that you apply your paint a little bit thicker, cover the texture of the canvas. And when you apply it thicker, sometimes it does give you a more opaque coverage. But in my case, it does not. So that's why we'll be doing 2 layers. Now you are more than welcome to switch out colors if you want to do blue sky or purples or different shades of green. Please feel free to just utilize this as a template and make this your own. Make it unique to what you. I do recommend that you paint a little messy. You have many areas in your life that you're supposed to be controlled or perfect or color within the line. When you do something creative, you don't do. So here I'm actually grabbing the raw sienna and applying that direct to kind of the empty spaces in the background and blending it in with the green where it overlaps. Now, as you do this, I want you to just play with your brush pressure, play with the thickness of your paint. Notice that when you apply more pressure, your brush strokes show up a little bit more. And when you apply less pressure, you can get a little bit more of a smoother texture. And again, go ahead, apply that paint a little bit thicker. It does make for blending a little bit easier. And when I do the second round on the background, I'll still apply the paint pretty thick, and it just makes it nice and fun to blend. So each time that you paint, you get more and more comfortable with your skill. So I do recommend that you find creative outlets on a regular basis. And I'm really proud of you for hanging out and painting today. All right, filling that raw sienna in there. I wanted something really kind of earthy and kind of muted. So that's why I chose these 2 colors. Again, you can switch if you want a different shade or different color. Now do remember to breathe. A lot of times we hold our breath without realizing it, and it's a nice place to just kind of laugh, relax. This is just painting. Don't take it too seriously. Now, as you're getting closer to the flower, closer to the traceable lines, if you overlap the traceable, totally okay. And if you need to, you can switch down to a smaller brush with a little bit more control. So again, feel free to adapt your tools and adjust them to what you need. Because the brushstrokes show up quite a bit, I am trying to keep my mark making going in the same direction, going over and applying more for where it was a little more transparent. But in the end, I will decide to do a second layer. But I'm going to let this fully dry before I do that second layer. Now, as you are beginning out in your painting stages, when you first start out, a lot of times you're going to buy that cheaper paint just because you're not sure if you like it. And a lot of times that cheaper paint um, is a little bit more transparent and usually needs 2 or 3 coats. If you happen to be using nicer, thicker paint and you get good coverage on your first layer, you can actually skip the next section and move right into painting your flower. All right, so take that progress photo. I'm going to recommend that you let this dry for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then we'll do the second layer. Again, if you don't need it, skip, move the video along to where I start painting the flower. All right, so here, kind of doing the same thing, using the same colors, the green and the raw sienna, and using my base where I already put the colors, the first layer on there as my guideline. So just reapplying the color on there, applying it kind of thick, and then I'll be blending the raw sienna and the blue together. Or I'm sorry, the raw sienna and the green together. Again, apply that paint a little bit thicker. And it is pretty cool to see what a second layer of paint does. It does look nicer, does look more opaque. You don't see as much of your brush strokes. So keep that in mind if you're doing another painting and you don't like how the brush strokes are turning out or the transparency of your paint, then you can always do a second layer or even third if you need to. I do paint in a lot of layers in my work and a lot of my palette knife scraping will have 50 to 100 plus layers on there, pretty paper thin. I apologize for not doing the autofocus lock on this set of videos. I know that can be kind of frustrating. I am human. I apologize. It was not worth it to refilm all the videos. But in my new videos that I created, I did make sure I hit the lock button. So as with anything, whether it's filming the video or painting, you'll always have something to learn, something that you got to remember. And even if you've done it before, like I've created many, many videos before, there's things that you forget. And there's some things that happen that you just have to embrace it and kind of work around it sometimes. And for me, this one was the autofocus lock. All right, so here adding more of the raw sienna, a little bit thicker, blending it in. Feel free, trust your instincts, add anything that you want, do everything that you want to your background while it's wet. We're not going to come back to it after this step. And we will let this dry before we move into doing the tulip colors. All right, great job. Nice. And again, play with those brush strokes, light pressure, create a more even consistency. More pressure creates more painterly brush strokes that show up. Both are perfectly acceptable. All right, so take that last progress photo. You are going to let this dry, and I'm going to talk about my Paint Your Pet class, and then we'll pick up the video with the flower colors after this. So let your background dry, look at it from across the room, and even take a notice of how you feel right now. Hopefully a little more relaxed. And check out my Paint Your Pet course. I'll teach you either realistic or pop art, or both. And you won't have to paint as fast as the video, but my favorite part is coming up right here with the pets and their painting. So look at how awesome these pets look next to their painting. What a great job all my students did capturing their likeness and how proud the pets are of their parent. So check out the Paint Your Pet course. It's awesome when you paint something that you love, you actually put a lot more energy into it. And if you've never painted, I am the perfect teacher to start with. I do offer in-person and online classes, so please check out both. And all of my steps, whether it's online or in person, are very easy and logical to follow. Now, you can paint your pet or a favorite animal. The only animal you cannot paint is a human. You will impress your pet and yourself. And again, check out the Paint Your Pet course for all the options and check out that discount code. Now, let's get back to painting. I do want you to look at your painting from across the room. Generally, things look a little bit better. And when we get halfway done doing the flower, remember to look at it from a distance. So now I'm moving down to the medium flat brush. You can also use your pointy brush. And we're going to go petal by petal. So I'm making a light pink, and that is white with a little bit of red. Now, if your shade is lighter or darker than mine, totally okay. If you want to do a completely different color, feel free to swap out for that color. And if you have to mix your shade of pink a second or third time, it is okay if there's a little variation. And like here, I have to make it again. Again, does not have to be perfect. Filling in this first petal, and then we're going to put a shadow and then a highlight on. So we are trying to go for 3 shades. We're kind of applying the medium shade right now, and then we'll go a little bit darker and then a little bit lighter. All right, and sometimes I like to grab a different brush. Then I'm grabbing the pointy brush now, adding a little bit of red to my mixture and going a little bit darker. And I'm going to place that color where I want it, and it's usually kind of going to be at the folds of these petals. And then with light pressure where the 2 shades meet, I can kind of soften that line. And again, with light pressure. And we're going to recreate this process a couple of times. You're going to get good practice. We're also going to put some of this shadow in a few other areas on the petal. And all I want you to do is observe where I place this and mimic it to the best of your ability. I want you to notice the shape, the kind of blob or abstract shape that each color makes. And then again, with a light pressure in your brush, you can go back and blend the darker shade into the lighter shade. And here I'm taking a little bit of that red, giving almost a little bit of a theme down the center, and then a little bit darker at the base of the flower where all the petals are coming together. Now, if you have to do this a couple of times because maybe you blended away too much and lost the darkness, you just reapply your darker shade. Here, we're going to the opposite end, taking the pure white and adding the highlight value. So again, the white is the highlight value, the darker pink was the shadow, and the light pink was the mid-tone. And we're going to recreate this kind of concept on each petal. And by having 3 shades, this is what gives you the illusion of a 3D object on a flat 2D surface. So take your progress photo, and we're going to recreate that process on the next petal. So I'm going back up to the medium flat brush, making that light pink again. And again, it doesn't have to be exact as the shade prior. Just kind of come close. You get a lot of wiggle room in painting. And again, we're going to fill in that whole petal, and then we're going to go with the darker magenta and then the white highlight. You are going over the traceable lines. And if you happen to go over the other petal, just go back and kind of correct and reapply what you need to. We will be doing outlines that are optional at the end of this painting. So going back to the pointy brush now, the darker magenta, about 2 shades darker than your base petal shade. And I'm applying this to that kind of right-hand side. It's a little subtle. We're going to go a little bit darker in a moment. Here we go, a little bit darker red. And if you need to, if you're kind of shaky, exhale as you touch the brush to the canvas, and that will help steady out your hand. Here we're going to grab the white and kind of going on the opposite side that we put the dark shadow value, and on the edge of this petal, on that left-hand side, adding a white highlight. And same thing, place the white on there, and then with light pressure, you can blend some of that white into that base pink. You're doing great. We're going to repeat that process yet again. We're starting with that light pink, filling in kind of the curve, the part of the petal that's curving over, filling that whole space in. There we go. Again, going over the traceable lines. Then we're going for the darker magenta, 2 shades darker, for the base where all the petals are coming together. Again, pause the video as much as you need to, and if you need to see a little closer, feel free to take a screenshot and then zoom in a little closer to see some of the detail. Use the technology for all the things that it can do to help you learn even more from this video. All right, now going in with the white, getting some highlights. And as you apply the white, I do recommend applying it pretty generous, just because that white does get eaten up when you blend it in with your base color. So take another progress photo. We've got kind of the 3 back petals to add, and then the stem and the leaf. So again, going back to that base shade of pink with white and red, you're going to fill in the back petal, and then again, add the shadow element and then a highlight. You're doing a great job. I'm really proud of you. So take your time. This is not a race. You do not have to go fast. You do not have to finish this in one sitting. And if you need to, feel free to turn the canvas sideways or upside down if it makes it easier to get to some of those areas. Now going in with the darker shade, getting the shadow elements in there, and again, kind of placing it on the edge and the bottom, and then wiping off the brush and adding, kind of blending it into the base. And when you wipe off your brush and with that excess paint, it just makes it a little bit easier to do some of your blending. There we go. Now be calm and controlled. Again, this is not a race. Exhale as you touch the brush to the canvas and just start noticing the subtle transitions as you're doing the blending. So going back to the pink again, we've got 2 more petals in there. And if you need to, at this point, you can even overlap your background a little bit if you need to clean up the edges of your flower. It is okay to overlap the background. Doing a great job, going in for a little bit darker. And this one might even be using a little bit of just that direct red. And again, placing it on the edge and the bottom. And then with little tiny movements, light pressure, blending that into the base color. This does get easier with more practice. So be kind to yourself if you're finding parts of this frustrating. This is something that when you're doing it for the first time, it is a little more frustrating. But if you painted this again, you'll actually see and feel how much you have grown in that time frame. And especially, I would recommend doing some other paintings in between redoing this painting. Again, the more practice that you have, the more comfortable you get with your skills and your tools. And that's really all painting is just getting you comfortable with the tools on. And the only way to get comfortable with something is with practice. All right, so adding a few white highlights kind of on the edge of the bristle, edge of the petals, and this should actually help it pop against that background nicely. And this would be a point that I would recommend getting out of your chair and looking at your painting from across the room. Notice how it looks a little bit different than the last time you looked at it from that perspective. So just going back in and adding a few highlights that got kind of washed out. So go back and add anything that you need to your petals, and then we'll move into the stem and the leaf. Take your progress photo when you're done. You're doing great. All right, so now we're going to move into some green and yellow for the stem. And I would recommend doing a brighter green than what you did for the background. Don't use that same green. So by starting with the yellow and then adding green, this gives us really nice, bright, vibrant spring green. And you can use either your pointy brush or the flat brush, whichever you're finding more comfort with. All right, so moving into the leaf, adding the highlight value, and then grabbing some more of that direct green because it's going to mix with the color we put in there prior. Um, it's okay to kind of stand out with it, but make sure that you're mixing it with this lighter color so that way it doesn't fade into the background. Nice. And again, feel free to pause the video. I am putting the darker green on the right-hand side, on the shadow, the right-hand side and the bottom. All right, good place to take another progress photo. Let your painting fully dry, and this next step is optional. This is going to be where we're doing the black outlines. And it's using the pointy brush, black paint, and basically redoing all the outlines, redoing that traceable. And again, this is optional. If you don't want to do it or you like your painting as is, leave it as that. Because I teach first time beginners, I do like to do this step because it does kind of clean up some rough edges, especially for my early painters. So again, you don't have to do it, but if you choose to, take your time, use light pressure. Notice how many times I am grabbing more paint. And let's see, if you need to, put your forearm rested against the edge of the table. That will give you a bit of a steady hand. You can also put your pinky out, use that as a pivot point. And feel free to rotate the canvas if you need to. If it's easier to make a line in a certain direction, rotate the canvas so it's easier. I keep this in the same orientation just for filming the tutorial. But again, you can move your canvas to any direction that you like. If you're starting to notice that maybe your brush strokes get whiter and whiter, take a look at your brush. Do you have a lot of buildup of black paint on your brush? And if you do, wipe off the excess paint, maybe fully clean it, and then go back and reapply. When you clean your brush, that's going to bring the bristles back together. Again, take your time. There's no rush. If you are starting to find that your brush strokes are getting sloppy and you're getting irritated, tired, go take a break. Walk around, get something to eat, and then come back and finish your painting. Right, it is pretty cool how these outlines just really do clean it up and make it look really nice. Take your final progress photo. And again, great job today. Thank you for getting creative. Thank you for painting. Please don't wait too long to do your next painting. I recommend weekly or monthly, whichever you can get to. And send me photos, tag me in social media, or email them to me. And when you are done with my landscape and flower paintings, definitely check out the Paint Your Pet course. Until next time, cheers.